This is Ricky, and I am so excited to be speaking with Pamela Perry, who is the CEO, founder, the originator of I Live to Thrive. She's a subject matter expert in dealing with being prepared for potential risk, at-risk situations. She's a leader in the preparedness industry, which I always say. And I'm going to go ahead and let her tell us about what she do.
To sharing about my journey, and which it truly is. I have been on a journey that perhaps some of you can relate to. I grew up inner city, and my parents were hardworking folks. However, we never had money conversations. And the conversations that I observed was that, we kind of lived paycheck to paycheck. So that's how I grew up. And into my adulthood, I actually was able to be the first one to go to college. But one thing they didn't teach me in school or even in college was managing your money. In fact, I went to college, and the first thing that's offered to you is credit card. And I took full advantage of that offer. So by the time I got out of college, I was in debt, had a degree, got a job, and actually found that even though I was making money, I was spending most of it. So that was my experience well into my 30s, 40s. I got married, had kids, and found that the situation of living paycheck to paycheck, once you become a parent, it becomes even harder. So it got to a point that an event occurred that was very transformative for me, and that was Hurricane Fran. I don't know if any of you can recall how devastating it was, but I was caught completely off guard financially, not having enough money to really sustain feeding my kids. But fortunately, my kids were used to, they had no problem eating hamburgers until the hamburgers were gone, hot dogs until those were gone. So for them, they remember it as an adventure. But to me, it was so traumatic. And I said from then on, I will never find myself in that situation ever again. So when I describe myself as a prepper, I became a prepper at that point. It was not as a doomsday prepper, but really to begin to make changes in how I view money. And at that time, I was also given some advice by AME minister. He told me, Pam, you're going to have to learn to live you're going to have to live below your dollar. So that's all that he said. And I said, I can't do that right now. I got 2 kids in a house to take care of. He said, someday you'll get there. And that's the point that I do want to make. Once you get to a rock bottom point and realize that the problem is not society, it's not a lot of times we want to blame it on, if you're African American, we want to blame it on racism or this or that, but often it comes down to what we're doing with our dollar. So that was the change for me. And over the years, I developed a method based on that advice from the AME minister of not spending all of my dollar. In fact, I got to a point where, and it took years, literally, and I would fall off the wagon, as they say, financially, and make some bad decisions and have to start over again. But here's the method. You start where you are. You look at what you're spending. And I found that there were a lot of things. I'm a big techie person. I would be spending on this device, that device, and I really didn't need it. So I started to trim away the things that I really was overspending on. So I developed this tool called Cash Flow 5-10-10-75. You start where you are. You learn to look at what you're spending, and slowly but surely the goal is simply to get to a emergency cash stash, because that for me was the only way that I was going to avoid making desperate decisions. You know, those kind of decisions, you robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're hawking something, pawning something. You're donating blood or this or that. That's crazy, and it's not the way it's meant to be. So when you get to a point where you at least have, like $500 so that you're not running around asking other people for it, it begins to feel good. And you want to keep that feeling. So you keep going. And that's what I did when I got to a point where I call it my tipping point cash stash, where I can sleep well at night because I do have a certain amount that I can get access to. That's what those in our community, in my what I call my kinship community, African American Christian, that's what we have to do. So I've created a tool that serves as a encouragement, a guide to start doing that. So the tool is either an Excel spreadsheet. I've also created an app which people can download to their iPhones or their Android phone and get started. And if they're looking for some really cool hacks on how to engage in that process of living, starting to spend less, save more, give, because that's part of it. Giving is where you actually build relationships that are worth more than money when stuff hits the fan. So all of that is part of what I promote under the name of Cash Flow 510-1075. That's the tool I created. And the organization that I have also created, I Prep to Thrive, to create tools and resources to help us all get to that tipping point cash stash and beyond. As my colleague Ricky has mentioned, ways to grow your money while you're growing your money. So with that sums it up.